Hi class, in this video we're going to start with example 13-1 in your textbook on page 854. You can follow along there if you like. We'll be changing things up just a little bit. I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to use a Windows Forms app. And I'm going to call it Chapter 13 Examples. If that's what I want my solution, I think I'll call this one EX 13-1. Keep fighting with it there. Okay, that's what I want. Different names, solution and project. So I'm going to put more than one project in here. Save that in TFS. Set up my form properties. This is going to be some sort of file information display. Change my back color. Just a few small things. Now we should have some default set for our form. I'd like to add a text box. If you notice in the textbook, we make this a console app. We'll go ahead and make ours a Windows form. Now in this text box, I want my multi-line property to be true so that I can make it bigger. And that should be enough. I'll name it TXTEX info because that's what it's going to show is our info. Alright, so when this program starts, I want to check on the status of this file that we're going to work with. So I want to have this happen before the form displays. So I want it to be in my form load. My form load processes as my form is loading. To generate the form load method, I can just double click on a blank spot of my form, and that'll generate the code for my form load. Now, being a bad girl, I did not rename things properly, so let's do that. I'll close this, and I'm going to rename my form frminfo.cs. And I'm going to rename my program.cs to be main class. Okay, so looking at our form again, I'm going to double click to go to our code. It's still named form 1 load, which is fine, but we could go if we wanted to. Let's go fix it. Click on your form, looking at your form properties, switch to events, and change that name from form1_load to frm info. And then we should be able to delete this old one. Let's make sure it'll run. Messing with the names of things, huh? Looks fine. Okay. So we got everything renamed properly. Much easier if you do that before you start generating any code. Now in our form load, we're going to check to see if this file exists. The file name we're going to check is birdofparadise.jpg. Now we're going to just start out really basically here. Up in our using clauses, we need to change our program to use system.io. And then we should be able to access our file management classes. Now again, I have my file name here, and I'm going to do an if statement. I want to use the file class And the file class is a static class that lets me just issue commands against certain files. So I want to see if a file exists, and the file I want to check is in our string file name. Now, if that file name exists, we're going to add some things to our text box. Because they use the console, we're going to have to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to set up a string for output. And now in that string, I'm going to start adding to it. So the first thing I want to add is the file name. But I would like to use the formatting that they're using that we can use for the console display. So I'm going to invoke the string.format method. And there's a lot of string information available, something that you might want to check into. But string.format lets me use the same formatting parameters that I use in my console output. For example, the parameters. So I can say file name 0, replace that parameter with our file name variable. Now I can add more to our output. Again, I would like this formatted. This time I want to say attributes. And after the attributes, I would like to specify our file name. It's attributes. So we're going to use the file class, get attributes method, and we're going to run that against the parameter file name. I'm going to go ahead and add a new line character in front of each of these. Since I'm not using the console, I want to make sure that output gets formatted. Now the next thing that I want to output is going to be the created date of the file. So I'll use file dot get creation time, which will include the date also for our file name. And lastly, we'll add one more thing. This time, we're going to add the last accessed. Oops. Got an extra double quote there, huh? And for our last accessed time, we're going to use the file class again. So notice that the file class gives us access to information about files. Get last access time. And also do take a look at what UTC is. UTC is universal time, and that would change our display because we would be like Greenwich Mean Time plus 5 hours, and universal time is very important to programmers. Lots and lots of things. Now finally I have an output string built, so I'm going to change our text box info, that text property, to display that. And what if a file doesn't exist? Well, if our file doesn't exist, we're going to write out a message also. We want it to be a formatted string, and we're going to start out with our parameter. And we're going to say that file that you wanted was not found, and I was looking in the current directory. Now, if we look at our code here, we see right away that we should be following this else path, right? Because I haven't created this bird of paradise file. I don't have it, so it shouldn't exist. So let's run it and see. Oh, bird of paradise.jpg not found using current directory. Okay, so that looks good. It worked right. Now, how can I actually make this file be found so that we can see some information about it? Well, let's go find a bird of paradise file picture. So I'll bring up Google here. Doesn't like to slide over for me. And I'm going to look at bird of paradise. And images. And the bird of paradise is this pretty flower here. So we're just going to use this very quickly in our program. I'm just going to take one. I know. Let's save image as. Now, where am I going to save this image? I'm just going to save it to the pictures folder of my local machine. And I'm going to name it Bird of Paradise, making sure that I picked one that was a JPEG, because otherwise I need to update my code. Now I want to add this picture to our project. So there's lots of different things we can do. I'm going to right click on our solution and open this folder in File Explorer, just like in our previous video. Now when I look at this folder in File Explorer, I want to go find my Bird of Paradise picture. I'm going to copy it, go back to my project folder, or my solution folder, and I want to go into my project folder. So let's just put it right there. Let's paste it. Okay, so now it's in our project folder. If I look at my solution, I should be able to close my project. Do you see it? Don't see it. Is there a way that we can change our view up here so that we could see it? Let's look at our folder view. Now if we look at our folder view, we're actually going to see the files that are in each folder, and there is our Bird of Paradise. I'm going to go back to our solution view that we're used to. Okay, let's see if we can find it then in that folder. No, it says I still can't find it. So let's go back to our folders. I'm going to move this, and where I want to move it is into that bin debug folder where we saw that our executable file exists. That's where our executable file lives. So I'm going to move this into that folder. Now I'll check. It is in there in the bin debug folder. So now if I run, I see some information. First of all, my file name Bird of Paradise, the attributes are archived. It was created today, last accessed today. Now one thing I noticed is that because I was using a text box, I didn't get new lines, but I put in the \n. Well, the reason is that when we're using a text box, we need a carriage return and a new line, which goes way back to the old typewriter days. So I'm going to put \r for carriage return and \n for new line. And let's see how that works for us. And sure enough, it's found our file. It says that it has an archive attribute when it was created and when it was last accessed. So from this video, we see that the file class lets us get information about files. and it's a static class that doesn't require us creating an instance of it to get that information. We'll look at accessing folders and directories in our next video. Thank you.